Good evening, class. I know some have had some Blackboard issues. I believe everything was corrected and there shouldn't be any problems. I noticed an issue with Safari myself, so I'm using um, Chrome. So I believe that helps too, depending on your web browser. But anyways, thank you all for submitting your week 4 assignment. I know that was really hard for some of you and caused maybe some stress. I I'm looking forward to looking at them. Please understand it's going to take me a little bit of time just because they're so long and I want to get a chance to look at them all, and then obviously you have your response papers I need to look at as well. So I will get that all taken care of. It may not be done in a week, but it will get done, I promise. For some of you who maybe had a harder time getting it done by week 4, just keep in contact with me so I know what's going on. As I know you were dependent upon volunteers and such, and that made sometimes things complicated. So just keep in contact with me to let me know what's going on so we can get all that situated. This week we're talking about some theories and legal and ethical issues, and I'm not going to drag on too much about legal and ethical issues. As you can see, there's a lot here. Also, obviously in your text, but this has come up a couple times just in Blackboard discussion that I've read and read some of your posts and um, about confidentiality in group because that's pretty tricky. A lot of times, there's group rules and confidentiality is in the documentation that they sign. They talk about here, I think, informed consent. And that would be something that you would have all your group members sign. It's the same limits of confidentiality, harm to self, others, elder abuse, or child abuse is reportable. Um, whether it be a group, family, couple, doesn't matter. That's always the same. However, a lot of times in your informed consent, you will have the group rules posted and some information about the group. Confidentiality usually is in that document. So group members are expected to keep things confidential. However, as we know, when you send a group home, that doesn't mean that they will. And everyone is made aware of this, and in a lot of groups, they create some sort of culture or dynamic that they wouldn't want to betray the group by giving out information, personal information. But that is a risk in being part of a group. We can't guarantee 100% confidentiality. And so that can be a little unnerving and nerve-wracking for people. But that is a reality of groups. So it's not silly to expect confidentiality. I think it's definitely something to talk about with the group, to talk about the importance of it, why we need to not breach it, things of that nature. But we can't be 100% guarantee. Unlike in our own personal therapy, when we, or I should say, when you are the therapist and you're seeing maybe a couple or a client, the only people in the room are the people that are in the room. And so if your clients want to talk about therapy, that's their choice, but you don't talk about therapy. And you have control over yourself. You don't have control over other people. And that's what makes it hard in a large group. You don't have control over what those other people say to anyone else. So just something to be mindful of. Again, limits of confidentiality remain the same. Of harm to self, others, elder abuse, or child abuse. Those remain the same. Okay, so here we're talking about theories and techniques of group counseling, and this is something that might be things that you pay attention to as you watch a group this over the next week if you haven't yet. And theories, we learn about theory in family therapy, we learn about theory with individuals, we learn about theory with kids, and theory is designed as a framework to practice. It kind of gives us a foundation, and then from there, what you do is what you do. And so we, of course, have theory with group. So there's a bunch of different approaches. A thinking, feeling, and behaving model. Combining the following 3 domains is the basis for powerful and comprehensive approach to counseling. So there's the cognitive domain, which is the thought process, the affective domain, which is the feeling, and the behavioral domain. So you want to use the techniques effectively. The group leader has a lot of freedom. Like anything that the group leader does would be seen as a technique. And they can, techniques are most useful when they evolve from the work of the group participants, and then they are particular to whatever's going on in the group. Um, so with this kind of technique, you want to make sure you have the right kind of group, that people are ready to confront issues, that you have people with the same kinds of value system, that there's been an alliance with the leader, and there's some sort of cohesion. Multicultural thinking is really important. It's important to recognize what the dynamics are in your group. You don't want there to be any sort of discrimination or hostility over any sort of cultural background. You want the leader to be knowledgeable in things so that they don't say things that could be offensive or cause someone to feel maybe pushed against. You definitely want to make sure that you are aware of the cultural lens that you're working through. So there's psychodynamic approaches, there's experiential and relationship-oriented approaches, cognitive behavioral approaches, and postmodern approaches. All these approaches are things that you've learned about. So again, psychoanalytic therapy emphasizes the insight on the unconscious, right? We think of Freud when we think of psychoanalytic. Group therapy often consists of a lengthy process of analyzing inner conflicts that are rooted in the past, which that's kind of very similar to individual therapy, right? So major techniques include free association, interpretation, dream analysis. Again, some of the things that we would do in an individual setting. Then Adlerian therapy focuses on the unity of the person, understanding the individual's subjective perspective and the importance of life goals that direct behavior. So the style of life consists of our views about others, the world, and ourselves. These views lead to distinctive behaviors that we adopt in pursuit of our life goals. So they talk a lot about the family constellation, again, going into past. He has ties with psychoanalytic theory. So there's some underlining mutual things. He's not bound. Adlerian therapy is not bound by specific procedures. And again, a lot of history taking with this kind of modality. A lot of history taking. Experiential and relationship-oriented approaches. There are 6 key proponents or propositions of existential therapy. So self-awareness. We must accept the responsibility that accompanies our freedom. We have a concern to preserve our uniqueness, so right, our identity. Number 4, the significance of our existence and the meaning of our life. Anxiety is part of a human condition, and death is also a basic human condition, which, I mean, makes sense, right? The main goal of therapy is to assist participants in recognizing and accepting their freedom to become the authors of their own lives. So showing that they have choices, and they have the ability to make those choices. Which again, still kind of deriving from a psychoanalytic perspective. The person-centered approach, this is where we get, I'm going to go blank right now. Oh, well, person-centered, humanistic kind of approaches. That's where we have Rogerian, right? Therapy rests on the assumption that we have the capacity to understand our problems and that we have the resources within us to solve them. Now, I think we can have the capacity, but not a lot of people are very aware. So this is requiring, and maybe that's the point of therapy, right, is to help a person become more aware that they have the capacity to solve their problems. A lot of clients will come into your office not realizing that they have the tools to do some of these things, right? So the therapist, in a sense, conveys a genuineness, empathy, unconditional acceptance, positive regard. Again, just very positive. So Gestalt, right? We've heard of Gestalt. Emphasizes on the here and now. Awareness, trying to create that awareness in people, right? So this leader tends to think more in terms of experiments and techniques. Experiments are the cornerstone of experiential learning, which kind of says it in their statement right there. Feelings through body sensations and actions are all used as pathways to understand what is central for the client in each moment. So taking things moment by moment. Psychodrama. Group members explore their problems through the role playing and acting, which that can be very interesting in our group. Having like people role play and act things out, it could be very interesting. All the different dynamics too. So this is to aim at fostering creativity in the individual. Our other goals include promoting catharsis and insight. So you could really see how you see how maybe others see you or how you are seen by someone acting out maybe something that you've done or some like an experience. It's very interesting. That's even interesting in family or couples therapy. Behavior therapy, identification of specific goals. The members and therapists collaboratively specify treatment goals in concrete, measurable, and objective terms. Leaders tend to be active and directive and to function as consultants and problem solvers. So techniques include relaxation methods, behavioral rehearsal, coaching, guided practice, just to name a few. And then, of course, good old cognitive therapy. So trying to figure out, our thoughts, behaviors, beliefs, defeating irrational thoughts, seeing that they're capable, trying to change the way clients think, which can be huge for clients. Really, really huge. A lot of psychoeducation comes in here. Questioning, self-questioning. So yeah, very, very helpful. Rational emotive behavioral therapy, that's talked about. People incorporate dysfunctional beliefs from external sources and then continue to indoctrinate themselves with the faulty thinking. And we all have probably had experiences with this in our lives, right? Where all of a sudden our rationality becomes our reality. So we're trying to defeat those strategies, right? So again, looking at a wide range of cognitive, emotive, and behavioral methods. We're looking to try to derail some of that negative thinking, trying to create change in the person's life. So these are just a few of the different theories. Probably looking at some of these, you can see with different groups that you will experience over the course of the next week, what are some of the theory that they're using in their group practice. But hopefully you find this a little bit helpful. I know you guys are inundated with work, so it's really hard to keep up with the lectures and all the reading and everything. So just try your best to get things done. And then I know you have this paper, and then we'll be wrapping up soon. We've made it over halfway. So keep up the hard work. I know it's difficult, but you can do it until we meet again. So if you guys have any further questions about anything that's been submitted or anything that's going on with your papers or whatever, just let me know. Have a great week.